Hello, my beautiful people. Welcome to Docentes DigitalesTV, the most complete spoken English course on all of YouTube. Here, you will learn English simply by listening to real stories, repeating key phrases, and answering out loud. No dictionaries, no memorizing long vocabulary lists. Just listen, speak, and understand. And at the end of the video, you'll get a full vocabulary explanation of all the uncommon words used in today's story. Get ready to enjoy and grow your English skills like never before. Let me tell you my story. It's something I wish had never happened, something that still plays in my mind like a movie on repeat. I'm Julia. I'm a nurse. I've been working in the emergency department for nearly 7 years. I've seen countless cases, handled more stress than I can explain, and saved lives. But one day, I made a mistake that nearly shattered everything I believed about myself as a professional. That day, I gave the wrong medication to a patient, not because I didn't care, not because I wasn't paying attention. At least, I didn't think so. But because I was human. And that day reminded me just how dangerous being human can be in this job. The day started like any other. I clocked in at 6:45 a.m., tied my hair back, grabbed my stethoscope, and reviewed the shift handover from the night crew. There was already a crowd in the waiting area. I remember thinking, it's going to be a long one. Around 8:30 a.m., a middle-aged man named Mr. Patterson came in with chest pain. His vitals were stable, but he looked pale and anxious. The attending physician ordered some labs, an ECG, and a mild sedative to help calm him down while we ran tests. I was assigned to administer the sedative and monitor him closely. This is where everything started to go wrong. The sedative prescribed was lorazepam, common, effective, safe at low doses. But the medication I grabbed from the drawer wasn't lorazepam. It was lidocaine, meant for numbing, and in some cases for irregular heart rhythms, but absolutely not meant for calming anxiety intravenously in that context. The two vials looked nearly identical, same size, same label color. Both started with L. And I was rushing, juggling 3 patients at once, being paged constantly. I grabbed it, drew the dose, double-checked the name, or at least I thought I did, and administered it. Within minutes, Mr. Patterson's breathing became shallow. His heart rate dropped. He began to seize. I froze for half a second, then called the crash team, yelling, "We've got a code!" Alarms went off. Doctors and nurses flooded the room. I stepped back, heart racing, praying I hadn't caused it. But I had. The code team managed to stabilize him after what felt like an eternity, though it was likely only 8 to 10 minutes. Once he was stable and transferred to the ICU, we reviewed everything. I went back to the meds drawer, trembling. That's when I saw the truth. I had administered lidocaine instead of lorazepam. My knees buckled. I had to sit down. I couldn't breathe. I had always been careful, obsessive even. But that day, I had failed. My supervisor came to see me an hour later. She didn't scream. She didn't fire me on the spot. She simply said, "We need to talk through everything for the incident report." I broke down. I told her I would resign, that I didn't deserve to wear the badge anymore. But she looked at me and said something I'll never forget. Good nurses don't stop being good because of a mistake. They learn, they grow, and they don't run away from the responsibility. We filed the report. I admitted my error. I talked to Mr. Patterson's wife once he was stable enough. I told her the truth. She cried. But she also thanked me for being honest, for owning it, and for staying with her husband until help arrived. That part made it hurt even more. For weeks after, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the moment I grabbed the wrong vial. I kept seeing Mr. Patterson's face when he began to convulse. My hands shook during simple procedures. I even doubted if I should keep practicing. But with the support of my team, therapy sessions arranged by the hospital, and time, I slowly found balance again. I reviewed all safety protocols. I double-checked every label from that day forward. I became known as the nurse who triple-checked everything. Some teased me. Others learned from me. That mistake didn't define the end of my career. It reshaped it. It made me humbler, more alert, more human. So, to anyone listening who is in the medical field, let me say this. You're going to make mistakes. Hopefully, small ones, maybe even big ones. What matters is what you do after. Do you hide? Or do you take responsibility, learn, and rise stronger? I chose the second option. Now, let's move on and see how much you remember from the story. If you've made it this far, congratulations. Now, focus, because we have a little quiz to reinforce what you've learned. Answer the questions out loud and clearly. You'll have time to respond after each question. What was Julia's profession? She was a nurse. How long had she been working in the emergency department? Nearly 7 years. What symptoms did Mr. Patterson have when he arrived at the hospital? He had chest pain and looked pale and anxious. What medication was actually prescribed to Mr. Patterson? Lorazepam. What medication did Julia mistakenly administer? Lidocaine. What happened to Mr. Patterson after receiving the wrong medication? His breathing became shallow, his heart rate dropped, and he began to seize. How did the team respond to the medical emergency? They called a code, rushed into the room, and stabilized Mr. Patterson. What was Julia's first reaction after realizing her mistake? She felt overwhelmed, broke down, and offered to resign. What did Julia's supervisor tell her after the incident? That good nurses don't stop being good because of a mistake. They learn and take responsibility. What changes did Julia make in her practice after the incident? She triple-checked every medication label and followed strict safety protocols. Now that you've completed the quiz, let's move on to the vocabulary review. In this section, I'll explain the uncommon or tricky words and phrases used in the story so you can better understand them in real contexts. The first word is administer. To administer medication means to give or apply a medicine to a patient. For example, the nurse administered the vaccine to the child. The next phrase is vitals. Vitals refers to vital signs such as heart rate, temperature, and blood pressure. For example, the doctor checked the patient's vitals before making a diagnosis. Another word is trembling. Trembling means shaking, usually from fear or anxiety. For example, she was trembling before giving her big presentation. Let's look at crash team. In a hospital, a crash team is a group of medical professionals trained to respond to emergency situations like cardiac arrest. For example, the crash team was called when the patient stopped breathing. Next is code. In a hospital, calling a code usually means a medical emergency. For example, when the monitor beeped, the nurse yelled, "Code blue." Another word is convulse. To convulse means to shake violently, usually due to a seizure. For example, the patient began to convulse after the reaction. Protocol is next. A protocol is a set of official rules or procedures. For example, the nurses followed the infection protocol strictly. Now let's look at filed the report. To file a report means to officially submit information about an incident. For example, he filed a report after the accident in the lab. Next word, resign. To resign means to voluntarily leave your job. For example, she resigned from her position after 10 years. And finally, reshape. To reshape means to change or transform something significantly. For example, the experience reshaped his attitude toward responsibility. Thank you so much for listening until the very end. If you enjoyed this story and learned something valuable, don't forget to subscribe to Docentes DigitalesTV, give the video a like, and share it with others who are also learning English. We'll see you in the next video.